Hello class, Danny Hauger here from the Hauger History Podcast. We're talking about political parties today in a very short lesson summing up and preparing students who wanted extra time looking into the basics of political parties, and we're going to get right into it. So, a political party is a group of people who work together to control government through the winning of elections and the holding of public office, most likely in the fill-in-the-blank part. I delete the word government. That is the goal, to get control. Didn't mean to rhyme that. Now it's time that we move on. People who join together based on certain common principles and beliefs. In the United States, the two most common parties are the Republican and Democratic parties. Why do they do this? Political parties are essential to democratic government. They present options to the people, a way for people to get involved and serve as a link between the people and their government. Some argue that they are the primary method by which the will of the people get involved and invested into those who represent us in government. Others will talk about tribalism, and in a way, it's safety in numbers or strength in numbers. By unifying together the people's voices, you have a larger statement for power and control and for the motivations and will of the people to be governed under certain ways and certain functions. There are 5 major functions that we talk about in class. I expect my students to know all 5, and here's where this podcast can be helpful as a reminder. Number 1, it's about getting people into government, right? Getting control. So the number 1 function, nominating candidates for public office. That is the major function. They select the candidate, present them to voters, market them, work with them to help their candidate win elections. Okay, so the second one will be informing and activating supporters. How does a party get people involved, make people care, make people function, take a stand on the issues? It's informing and activating supporters. That's number 2. Number 3, as we move on to the list of top 5 political functions, uniting government. They bring people together to connect for legislation, for making laws, for performing in office and getting candidates into those offices, but also for fulfilling promises that are made during campaigns to keep parties in power. Number 4, influencing policy and influencing government. It usually increases the Congress and state legislators' organization, government action. It organizes that to partisanship oftentimes to make sure that people vote along party lines and keep the strength and the operational efficiency of the party high. Legislative and executive branches must cooperate in order to accomplish anything. That's number 4, influencing policy and government. And finally, number 5, a watchdog function. You see in any part of American history, the party that is not in power in the presidency closely watches the actions of the party in power. And usually, the party that controls the executive branch of government is the party that is being watched most closely by the party that does not have control. So it's a watchdog function. The party out of power tries to convince voters they should be the ones making decisions, that they could do a better job leading, and it often makes those in power more responsive to the wishes and concerns of the people, though not always. As far as political parties goes, those are the basics that we will have on our first quiz. The two-party system also is affected occasionally by the examples of minor parties, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Constitutional Party. Those are some of the side parties historically in the United States. And on a historical basis, the United States has always been a two-party system from the time of the Federalist and Anti-Federalist debating ratification of the Constitution and how powerful the central government force should be. And even in a different time, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans formed at the beginning of John Adams' presidency. These are the Democrats and Republicans that we know today, but it originated from the ratification debates around the Constitution. The fact that we have two parties perpetuates itself and continues to prosper, or at least continues to exist because of those stories of those origins. Typically in generalizations, although all generalizations are false, and I'll say that once again, just like I did in class, Republicans are more in favor of free market capitalism, believing taxes should not be raised. They're in favor of increased military spending, often in the modern era, and uphold conservative or traditional values. And the Democratic Party, again, generally supports social welfare programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, etc., believes the government should regulate the economy to protect consumers. They're in favor of decreased military spending and liberal on social issues like orientation, race and gender, etc. Now, we all know that people can cross over those lines and blend different parts of party preference with their own personal beliefs. And in under 5 minutes, we have just recapped the essence of the foundations of the basics of political parties in the United States. There will be much more, but that's a primer for those of you who are wishing to study for the next quiz that's coming up in class. Thanks so much. This is the Hauger History class saying class dismissed. Thank you very much for studying hard and being active and knowledgeable about your future in government and politics. Thanks for listening, and talk to you later. Class dismissed.